Okay, so I wanted to make a video. This is something that God has been putting on my heart. And you know what? If I offend somebody with this video and what I'm about to say, let's talk about it, okay? But I watched the interview with On the Pivot about the governor in Maryland, Westmore. And, you know, I realize he has a lot of supporters. A lot of people really like him. And, you know, he seems like a legit dude, you know what I'm saying? Like, on the cuff. Like, he's fighting for black people. He is doing all the things, you know, he's saying all the right things, you know, tax cuts for people that are, you know, ex-military, or trying to reduce childhood poverty in Maryland, and considering the past and the criminality of that particular region and that area, and addressing that. He's helping with unemployment, and he's helping with what else? He's helping with unemployment, and he's helping to create more jobs. I think all of that is great. I think all of that is important, and all of that makes sense. But there was something that he said at the end of the interview where I think they asked him, you know, about, like, it was like a grandmother or something said, you know, have faith or something like that. And he's saying, like, it was the way he said it that I was like, I don't think he knows what that means. You know, it was something about the way he said it. And I'm going to try to find it, because I want to say it's at the very end. I don't know. But it was something like when I'm listening to it, I can hear, you know how, like, when people say something and it sounds like they say it, right? But you can tell they really don't know what that means when they're saying it. Almost like a kid. You know how, like, kids talk and they saying stuff. Sometimes they putting words together that really don't fit. And you could just tell, like, he really don't know. Like, there was even, like, he said something about football. And it sounds like he's played football before. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like it. But he meant to say interception, but he said receivings or something like that. I don't know. It was like, it was a wording. And I was like, he sounds like, to me, he don't really know what it means when you say you, like, live by faith. And I was, you know, doing some other research and looking him up and stuff. And I noticed that he's a Freemason. And I said, so how is it that you live by faith, but you are also a Freemason? How does that work? It doesn't. And I say that strictly because a part of the whole live by faith thing that even I've had to, like, learn to accept, is that some stuff you do because God told you to. That's it. Like, there's no like, oh, but I think at the end of the day, you can think a whole lot of things. And I think God is so for listening to what you have in mind. And I think there are certain things too where you can kind of, like, I don't want to say negotiate, but it's a conversation you can have with God. And, like, sometimes he'll give you the middle of the road. But the thing is, though, he said what he said. And so there are certain things that, like, he just will tell you to do. And it feels like surrender. It feels like flat out surrender, because I'm not doing what I want to do. I'm not doing it how I want to do it. You know, for you to join a secret society of any like degree, right? It means you want access. And it's not saying you're getting this access because of God. You're getting this access because you're in the secret society, which is not of God. Everybody knows that. And so there's a level of surrender you don't even have to address. Like, so I wrote down some things, because I went back and I watched the interview. I didn't catch the last bit, like the last, like, maybe 10 minutes or so, because for some reason my internet just won't work. But I wrote down some things about the things that he said. And I think this is really important, because the one thing that he said that made me think, like, I don't really know if he gets it, was because he said his name was Westmore, right? And he met somebody, or he knew of somebody named Westmore that like ended up going to jail for murder or something like that. He ended up going to jail for something that he did. And he has this power now to pardon people. And Ryan asked him, so would you pardon the other Westmore? Even though he sees himself in Westmore, even though he creates policies that like are for people like Westmore, he would not pardon Westmore. And that tells you right there, he's not who he says that he is. And he works for an agenda. And if you don't want to acknowledge that, so people like this, I feel, you end up benefiting from them by default, not through intentionality, which means something. When you talk about God, God goes back for the one. God goes back for the one. And a lot of times the one has done many things. The one has hurt people. The one has said and done terrible things. And you go back because, and you say something, you do something because they're the one. You know what I'm saying? And you pray for them too. And there have been people that have talked about, how God has saved them when they like really like in the trenches and about to be committed to like X amount of years and blah, blah, blah. And God can do great things. But this is why it's important to live by faith, because you cannot have the power. You know what I'm saying? Like, you cannot have the power to do a thing. But if you pray to God, he will like literally create a way out of no way. And I think everybody needs to experience that. I think everybody needs to experience that in their life. And so something that really makes me realize he does not live by faith, and he lives by maybe a set of principles, a set of values, he lives by an agenda, a plan or something. Because he said, I can't raise a boy, and I also can't raise a girl. He's basically saying like, I can't raise a girl. So he addresses issues that like impact black boys, but he doesn't necessarily address issues that impact black girls, because he's like, I can't raise a girl. Even though I have a daughter, I can't raise a daughter. See, that's how I know you don't live by faith. Because I learned as a teacher, being a person that serves children, bad kids, fat kids, tall kids, mean kids, nice kids, kids that got money, kids that don't got money. I learned there's a lot I don't understand about them. There's a whole lot I genuinely cannot identify with, because I had the parents that I had. Even if my situation was flawed, I can't identify with certain things because that's just not what I went through. But I learned, because I was their teacher for a year, it doesn't matter. If I can look at you and I don't know what to do, I go and ask the manufacturer, Lord Jesus, tell me what to do about this child, because I'm not sure. Okay, I'm just not sure. I don't know. And when I tell you, he'll tell me, just leave him alone for a minute. Give him this assignment. Have him only work up to number 5. Make sure you go back and go over this question, because that's where they're getting lost at. Make sure you sit next to his friend. This friend is this, that, and the third. Like, he will tell you what to do in regards to that child. He will. Why? Because that's his child. As a parent, I know you like, and this is the thing that's so weird, and this is the thing I think that like it almost worries me about black men, because he's told a story about he went through a season where he was kind of bad and he was doing things he wasn't supposed to be doing, and so his mama sent him to military school. That's intense. That's intense. So your dad has died, and you're being bad, and they just send you to military school. He doesn't like this place. The man, and they're saying this in a joking way, like that sounds funny. Like he's saying like, oh, the man had one of the sergeants or whatever made him a map, And he's like, look, you can leave, like you can go, da, da, da. Like there was some conversation. He's like, oh my God, thank you. You made this map for me, yada, yada, yada. Clearly he doesn't want to be here. For whatever reason, maybe it just don't sit well with him. Maybe it just, and you know what? When you're a teacher, I have to acknowledge those things. Like when I'm a teacher, I have to acknowledge that you got dyslexia. I got to acknowledge that you got autism. I got to acknowledge that you're not having a good day today. I got to acknowledge that your dad died. I got to acknowledge that you don't really like science. I got to deal with all of that and make provision for that. Create provision for that. Maybe I let up today. Maybe we don't go as far. Maybe, like, I just have to be in tune enough to know how far to push, if to push at all, what to stress, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have to, like, do that. And so he's telling this story about, oh, he went to military school and this man gives him this fake map, and so he runs off. You know what I'm saying? He Harriet Tubman. He gone, right? So he's gone, and they catch him. They're laughing at him. They catch him and they're laughing in his face. And he calls his mama. And he's like, Mama, like, this is what's happening. I need to leave, da 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 da. And she says to him, well, it's not about you. You need to stay there. It's not about you. How is his future not about him? How is his future? Like, don't get me wrong. Yes, he's going to take care of people. He's going to take care of a wife. He's going to take care of children. He's going to do all the things, right? But how is it that his life in that moment, like, even with my own child, my own 9-year-old, if he calls me, like, if my child picks up a phone and calls me, he's like, Mama, please, I'm coming. Like, because what's going on at that damn school? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on that you picking up the phone to call me? Because Lenny don't call me just to call me. You know, he just doesn't. And so I think moments like that really shape men. You know what I'm saying? Because it's through his changed behavior in this kind of intense moment where he gets things. He gets rankings. He gets more respect. Like, by doing what they tell him to do. And I think that's interesting, right? You know, that's an interesting, like, trade-off. Like, if you do what I tell you to do, you will get X, Y, and Z. And I think that, like, yeah, but then I also think too, like, there's something flawed in that sometimes. Because if you don't know that child, this is why relationship is so important. This is why getting online and making a huge statement to people, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm going to talk to people about this, that, and the third, yada, yada. God may not be, like, impressed with that, because there are certain things you can really want to make an impact in somebody's life through relationship. So I can't, like, as a parent, he's not my kid. He wasn't my child, right? But if my child called me on the phone to tell me that some grown-ass man did that to him, that would be a problem for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would just be a problem for me. And he said when he woke up the next morning, he said he ain't never been so mad in his life. So this is a moment in his life where he is blatantly ignored. He's blatantly, like, ignored. And so the idea, like, when we talk about, like, men, right? And we talk about, like, oh, well, they don't know how to do this and they don't know how to do that, and they're not the most emotional. That's why. Because in his moment of, like, okay, like, I don't know about this, though. You know what I'm saying? And you don't listen. I feel like that shapes people. That would shape a man. That when he cry, you don't care. When he's scared, you don't care. And, like, yeah, he went on to be a Rhodes Scholar and all that type of stuff. Like, yeah, because it snaps you. Like, when somebody does that to you, it's embarrassing. You know, like, it snaps you into whatever reality they want you to be in. And I just kind of, like, I just don't agree. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, I just don't agree. You know, when I watched the interview, you can see Channing. He's all like, he's looking at him with these big old eyes. Like, he kind of is not, it's almost like he's not believing it or something. Like, like Channing his facial expressions are just like he's like a kid, and he can't help but be kind of like kid-like. So, because he's kind of like trying too hard a little bit, you know, he's laughing real loud. And hey, maybe that could just be how he is. I'm just saying, when I, like, after having a son, even my son, I've seen my son do that, where like he wants interaction so bad, where he's kind of like putting on a little bit, and he's trying real hard. And like, I really just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that Freemason thing really like, it just, I don't know. Because I think when you really step into living by faith, it's a different life. It's a different life. And you look at things different. You look at people differently. You know, for you to say in one breath, Westmore was this, talking about the other Westmore that he met. Westmore is this, Westmore is that, yada, yada, yada. But you wouldn't save him. Trump is saving rappers that like, I don't know, rob people and stuff. Like, he just going there and get them right on out and going about his business. Now, how is it you living by faith, but you letting people that live a demonic life, like, they saving their own? Why you not saving? Why are you making statements where you're for boys and the trouble that boys go through, but you're not for the trouble that girls go through? When he talked about his father, how his father died, and how he kind of like gazes away, like he stops making eye contact. And I don't know, it just, damn. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying I'm not for him, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just saying you got to be careful with who you put into power. Because he said, you know, what's really great about this type of power. So he pursued power. It wasn't something that he surrendered to God and that God gave to him. He pursues power, which is a different type of mindset. It is. It's a different type of mindset. And so I disagree. You know, I agree with what he's trying to do. I don't agree with how he's going about it. Does that make sense? I don't agree. But that's just my take. You know, take it how you want. I hope I didn't offend Mr. Moore. I'm just saying, I think we can be better. I think we can be better. I think that in this political climate, you know, cutting corners, trying to, you know, you don't realize who you're working for. When you decide to cut those corners, I think selling your soul, all that type of stuff, all that talk, all that jargon, it's just decisions. It's decisions. And I think underneath your decisions is your foundation. And I think once you get out here and you try to like serve publicly, and like you realize like sick people can be kind of mean. You know what I'm saying? Children lie. Parents, some parents do everything but parent. Like once you really get out here and you like kind of see the good and the bad, I feel like for me, it forces me to think like God. It forces me, because if I want to keep my job and if I want to be someone that God is proud of, then I have to do what God tells me to do. And so a lot of times I can't even look at what's going on in front of me. I literally have to be like, God, what you want me to do? And it does change things, you know. I kind of wish that I wish I could say that when I listened to him, I could tell he really lived by faith. But that's not what I could really tell, you know. And I think a lot of things contributed to that. I think a lot of things contribute to black men deciding, like making their money with Satan, but claiming that they got faith. I think there's something that goes on within a black man specifically that turns him into that. And something that I listened to when I was a teacher, this one lady, it was a book. She said the root of racism is lovelessness. I think, and this is just my theory, the root of being double-minded is lovelessness. I think it is. I think it is. Because I think once you experience somebody blatantly dismissing you in a moment of need, it forces you into being double-minded. You may remember, you know what I'm saying, what was important and all that type of stuff and what you learned, yada, yada, yada. But what's in front of you to get out of this like uncomfortable situation, you just focus there. Because it sounds like to me, the choice was not his to get right. It was pushed upon him. And so in being pushed upon him, he made choices. It grew him up. And it made people want to be around him. It made him useful to other people. And then it's like all of that, you know, to get a man to be like to enter the kingdom of God, like it's real difficult to get a rich man to enter the kingdom of God, because it's so like you gain power, you gain people, you gain notoriety, you gain positions, you gain titles doing that, you know. But when you go the other way, you know, when you are like truly loved, there's some things you don't do because you're just not what you should be doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if it's just basic, like, that's not good for me, so that's why I don't do it. You know what I'm saying? Like I couldn't, as much as I want to. I taught middle school. I couldn't force myself upon the kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had to learn how to like present something, redirect you, be okay with whatever you put on that paper, grade it accordingly, and hopefully next go around I had to be consistent. The more consistent I am, I realize in the 30-day period they're gonna have highs and lows. My job is to be consistent. You know what I'm saying? Consistent in the things of the Lord, consistent in what I'm doing, consistent in my delivery, consistent in what it is that I'm teaching. And from there you really like kids just like, you just see so much growth. And once you love somebody from that point of view, they grow differently. You know what I'm saying? For you to call your mama in a moment of need and she just be like, no, that's control. Like, that's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's just my theory. You know, just like the root of racism is lovelessness, the root of being double-minded, I think, is lovelessness. You know, being rejected, you know, it puts you in just a different type of mindset. But I still think it's important to pursue what it is that God wants for you. Pursue that. You know, even if maybe you're not getting the power or the notoriety, I still think it's better to be in good standing with God than it is to be in good standing with the world. Because for you to sit up there and like, you got all these lights and you look nice and he's all like manicured and he looks good and everybody looks good, but when I listen to it, there's something about it that's empty. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign at all. Something about it is in you doing it. You can say all the things, but something about it is empty. You know, that's not. Because I always think too, like, because I've been around like really like racist people, and they'll tell me about this one black person though that they like. Why they like you? Why they feel comfortable with you? I think like that. Why? Out of all, because they don't like black people. So what is it about you? Like that, like typically I don't like to judge right off the bat, you know, but I do wonder, you know what I'm saying? I wonder what would make them so comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Like, what would make them so comfortable with you? And that could be good or bad, you know, not all, because I will say I've met some really kind-hearted, kind-hearted white people. To where I notice like black people gravitate to them. Black people listen to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not just black, it's Hispanic, it's white. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing too. But I'm just saying. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. But that's my take. I still think it's beneficial to be submitted to God more than it is to this world. You know, if not, you'll get caught up. You don't even know that you're caught up. So I want to end with a prayer. And, you know, God, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know, and I pray God will correct my heart and guide me into the right understanding. But I think that what I experienced was a seed of lovelessness that maybe like catapulted him into just doing what people tell him to do and being in circles and around people he may not have needed to be around. And he's leading a group of people. He's leading a state. And, you know, I want to pray over leadership. Something that Prophet Isi talked about was how there's this Hebrew word called bane. And it's this idea that good and evil is really just on a spectrum. Just like autism is on a spectrum, being good and evil, you know, having those two things is in everybody. It's in everybody's ability. You know, it's in everybody's like capacity to do both. And so what that makes me think about is like, if you say you're a prophet, for example, or if you say you're a Christian just in general, and if you know that by looking at people that everybody has this spectrum, you know, that they have the capacity to be good and the capacity to be bad, your first thought is to pray for them. Not banish them, not be like, oh, you ain't this and you ain't that, but like to pray for them. You know, pray for their heart, pray for them. Like, and the thing is, why I say relationship is so important is because if you really know them, you pray intentionally. Like, you pray for the thing like that like you see. And if you're wrong, God will leave it be. But if you're right, you will literally see a change in them. You will. Like, prayer really does work. Because sometimes some people just don't have somebody praying for them. So I pray for Mr. Westmore, that Mr. Westmore will engage with the Lord more. Allow him to guide him a little bit more. Because he's doing great things. I would love to see him even rest even more. You know what I'm saying? There has to be a lot of work. Doing. And I pray for rest for him. I pray for guidance. I pray for, you know, a father for him. A father figure, maybe. Friends that really just enjoy him. Enjoy spending time with him. And I pray for his leadership skills. I pray for whatever alliances that he's made that may not be of God. I pray those are done with now. And I pray he continues to walk and he finds his stride in the path that God has set for him. And if that is a little bit different from what he had in mind, I pray that he can let it go and continue to walk. And I pray that whatever makes him laugh about that moment where he was ignored when he went to that military school, I pray that God heals that. And I pray moments that really made him cry. I don't pray that he laughs about them. I pray that he allows God to minister to his heart about what that really meant, how it maybe really affected him, and how God would like to use that for later. That's what I pray. So I pray this is not a coming down on Mr. Moore, but more like a come up. Like I want to call you up. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's my take. It'll be all right. We'll all be all right.